Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally reached, at long last, the pinnacle of the college football season, the national championship. I liken this game unto the old adage, an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Obviously, the unstoppable force being Ohio State and the immovable object being Notre Dame. One has to give, and in this video, I will unveil who I think will come out on top and be crowned national champions. With that being said, welcome into the College Football 360 YouTube channel where I analyze all of the angles of the greatest sport to ever exist, college football. Now, if there's one thing I need you to do right now, it would be to subscribe to the channel so that we can keep growing this great community of college football fans. Like the video and comment as well, and without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, first things first, as always with my deep dives, let's provide some context for the big game and look back to how each team got here, starting with the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Buckeyes beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl to put them in this position to win the Natty, and they won that game without playing their best football. They shot themselves in the foot a couple times, 6+ penalties, mostly self inflicting wounds like personal fouls and false starts. They were inconsistent on offense for much of the game. Also, they won the game without any help from Jeremiah Smith at all. He maybe had 10 yards on the game. Texas very obviously played heavy zone, did not let Ohio State get anything over the top, and slanted coverage toward Jeremiah Smith. So to win without production from the best receiver in football is crazy to me. And yeah, this third point there, they beat an extremely talented and well-coached Texas team that, gets lost in the media world. It kind of gets lost that Texas is a extremely good football team, and it is. Texas is an extremely talented team, um, talented players all over the board, and it's a great achievement for Ohio State to beat them, and on top of that, beating Oregon and Tennessee as well. Last point here, really quick, before we move on to Notre Dame. I want to give out some very broad grades for Ohio State. These aren't anything specific, but just before we leave that Texas game completely, just some grades overall. The offense was great overall. Yes, it did struggle at times and was inconsistent at times, but they put up a lot of points and they were pretty efficient in the first quarter and in the fourth quarter. The defense was great as well. They put up some explosive plays, and that's going to happen. But they were extremely clutch down the stretch of the game, from the 80+ yard scoop and score from Jack Sawyer to the interception from Caleb Downs that officially sealed the game. That defense was great, and special teams, lastly, was good. It didn't hurt or hinder the team. Which is a plus when you have your special teams unit. It didn't do anything special, but it didn't hurt them. So that's a win for special teams in my book. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the Irish. Notre Dame is, in my opinion, one of the most resilient teams in football. They are the most resilient team in football. I am convinced. They just keep winning despite all of this stuff. I mean, you go back to, they came back from losing to NIU in week 2 and decided, you know what? We aren't going to let this bother us. Let's go 10-0 to finish the rest of the regular season. On top of that, they had their game against Georgia moved back because of the attacks in New Orleans and had a short week to prepare for Penn State. They were underdogs against Georgia, and I mean, they're just an incredibly resilient team. Okay, switching gears into the actual game itself against Penn State in the Orange Bowl, the defense was very resilient as well. That word does keep coming up, yes. Because they were pushed around a little bit by Penn State in their elite one-of-one running game, but they never gave up. And ultimately, it was the defense that won them the game with several key stops in the fourth quarter and the interception very late, courtesy of Christian Gray, to set up the game-winning field goal. My grades for them against Penn State were very good for the offense, as Leonard threw for over 220 yards, and the offense scored 27 points. However, Leonard did throw 2 interceptions. The running game was a little inconsistent for my liking for Notre Dame. So, it wasn't great, but it was very good. The defense was very clutch. We already discussed the defense already. And the special teams was great as Mitch Jeter drilled two walk-off field goals. One walk-off field goal and drilled two in total. Also, the punter James Rendell was elite in this game. Doesn't get talked about really at all. He punted the ball four times, and all four landed in the 20-yard line or closer. You had that special teams goof by Penn State catching the ball, catching the ball at the 2 and I think the 7-yard line. I mean, that's one strategy, but Notre Dame definitely won the special teams battle, and that's something to look out for in this game coming up. What And we now look at the storylines, for this game. The first point, can Ohio State play scrappy? What I mean by this is Notre Dame does remind me of how Michigan plays or played this past year. Scrappy, leaning on the running game and a strong defense. Although I will preface this by saying I think Notre Dame is a much, much better football team than Michigan. I think they have the same sort of identity, if you can see that yourself. And, this was the only area where Ohio State didn't play well. And it's the only point in the whole season where they didn't play well was against Michigan. When they had to get into a bar fight type of game against Michigan, they lost. I mean, when you look at the other loss, it was Oregon, but it was by 1 point, and they very easily could have won that game. And, it was that. So the only game where they really struggled was against Penn State, in my opinion. Um, so can Ohio State play scrappy against a scrappy Notre Dame team? Can they go to their level and win at their game? That's what I am wondering, because if Notre Dame's going to win, it's going to be playing on their level. Notre Dame can't go up to Ohio State's level and score 35 points through the air. I don't think they can do that effectively. So that's something that I'm looking out for. My second point here, can Notre Dame keep it close the whole game? What I mean by this is if Notre Dame keeps it close, I think that they have a very good chance of winning. If they let Ohio State, however, get out to a 10 to 17 point lead early, I don't think they can win this game, because I don't think this is a team that is built to come from behind. That's the key point there. So if Notre Dame can keep it within a single score or outright be winning, I think that they have an excellent chance of winning, because that's, I think, where they can win. I don't think they can come from behind. Third point here, can Notre Dame stay ahead of the sticks? This team is not built to convert long third downs. The way to get around this is by staying ahead of the sticks and converting the third and manageables. Third and shorts, third and sixes. So that's what I'm looking out for strategically in this game for Notre Dame. Point 4, my last point here, can Ohio State get out of its own way? Penalties continue to hurt this team. So, can they get out of their own way? It's very simple. They would have blown out Texas if you take out all the personal fouls and other penalties that killed their drives. I mean, I can point to at least 3 different scenarios where they just killed their drive. I know 2 in that second quarter where Travion Henderson comes up and pseudo punches the guy that knocks them back 15 yards, goes from 2nd and 3 to 2nd and 25, drive killer. The other one was, I think, a 3rd and 7-ish and there was a false start, ends up being a 3rd and very long. They weren't able to convert, and at that point, Texas grabbed some of the momentum. So can Ohio State get out of its own way? They kind of let Texas back in with all the penalties, and if they let, like I said, with that second point, if they let Notre Dame keep it close, Notre Dame's going to come out on top in this one. So, that's something that these are 4 points that I am looking for. They're not the end all be all points. They aren't all inclusive, excuse me. But these are just 4 things that I am looking out for in this game. Okay, so now we talk about my positional power ratings. So this is where I go through every single position on the field and I rate them straight up. If it's colored in red and white, that is advantage Ohio State. If it's colored in gold and navy blue, that would be advantage Notre Dame. So we will do this for the offense, the defense, and the special teams. So you want to stick around for all 3 of those segments. Starting here with the offense. Coaching, I give the coaching advantage to Ohio State. I really do like Chip Kelly and Ryan Day leading the offense out. Um, I certainly like Notre Dame's coaches, but I think what Ohio State does and with their players. So let's go ahead and talk about scheme and talent too. Down at the bottom there, it kind of fits in with coaching. I think the scheme is right for the talent that they have. Obviously, they have otherworldly talent, and this spread offense allows them to do pretty much whatever they want. If they want to run the ball, a lot. If they want to run the ball 30 times this game, that'll allow them to do it. This scheme will allow them to do it. If they want to pass the ball 50 times this game, they can also do that. So I think the scheme is incredibly flexible for them to do whatever they want. All right, moving to the quarterback here. At quarterback, I think Will Howard is just a better and more consistent passer than Riley Leonard. But what I will say is that Leonard is very clutch and a better runner. So, but all of this being considered, Will Howard is a pretty good runner. If you were grading them based off of running, I would take Leonard slightly. But as a passer, I think Howard has a decided advantage. So overall advantage goes to Ohio State. At running back, Jeremiah Love being injured certainly does not help the Notre Dame case for having an advantage here. But even if he was healthy, you still have to give it to Ohio State with this duo. I mean, you can't unsee what Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson have done this season and postseason. You know, they've combined for over 1,900 yards and 20 touchdowns over those numbers. They're just incredible running backs. They're great at blocking. They're great at doing everything for this Ohio State team. At wide receiver, this one is pretty easy, and I think all of you would agree with me here, as Ohio State boasts one of the most impressive wide receiver corps in the league. And oh, by the way, in case you haven't heard, they have the best wide receiver in football, and his name is Jeremiah Smith. So just want to throw that one out there. Also, want to throw this out there. Their number 2 receiver, Emeka Ibuka, will probably be a first round NFL draft pick, and Cardinal Tate in the slot is also extremely talented. You can't go wrong anywhere in this wide receiver room. Even when you get to the the fourth layers with Brandon Innes and those types of players that are all super young, they're super talented, and you can just slide them right in there, and they will make catches and produce uh, good yardage. So, wide receivers decided advantage for Ohio State. At tight end, we're going to go with Notre Dame here, chiefly because they use their tight end, unlike Ohio State, who does not want to use their tight end at all, and that's their choice. You know, they've gone this whole season without throwing to G. Scott Jr. He has I think he averages like 10 yards a game, and maybe that's just how they wanted to do it, and I'm sure it was. They wanted to put a heavy emphasis on the receivers, and that's what has been winning them games. So I'm not trying to critique them or anything like that. I'm just saying it's a fact that they don't use their tight ends, and Notre Dame, excuse me, actually does a little bit, at least a little bit, with Mitchell Evans. He's a really good tight end, by the way. He isn't targeted as much as he should, in my opinion, but he's excellent at blocking. He has really good hands and plus speed, and he's super physical as well. You saw that in the Penn State game. Advantage Notre Dame. With the offensive line, I have it overall, and then run blocking and pass blocking. Overall, I think that Notre Dame has a slightly better O line, captained by Pat Coogan at center. And I think that they just have a better O line. Again, as I've been saying this whole time, if Ohio State had Seth McLaughlin and Josh Simmons, I think that they would be a really, really good offensive line, but they've had to play a couple backups who have become starters. They have had to shift around some guys on that offensive line. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the Ohio State offensive line. I think that they are better run blocking, though, slightly, very slightly. I mean, it's like splitting hairs a little bit, So I think that the run blocking edge goes to Ohio State, and the pass blocking edge goes to Notre Dame. Okay, so let's now talk about the defense here. And when it comes to coaching here, these are two top 3 defensive staffs, in my opinion, but you have to go with the number 1 overall defensive team being Ohio State and Jim Knowles. They're the number 1 team for a very good reason, and you know, you can't not go with Ohio State's defensive staff here. over Notre Dame's. Notre Dame's is excellent. They're top notch, top tier. But Ohio State is the top of the top tier. So we're going with them there. So then we will go down. I meant to put this up at the top, but pass D and run D go above D line. I meant to put it there. That's my bad. Pass defense goes to Notre Dame. They're a top 3 passing defense unit. They have some shutdown corners, elite safeties, and they're very good at getting to the passer. They've been good all season, and they were especially good in the Georgia game. So we're gonna have to go with them here for that. When it comes to run defense, you can't do it better than Ohio State. Ohio State's defensive line is tenacious. They've got dogs all over that defensive line, from Ty Hamilton in the middle, to Jack Sawyer out there, and then you got guys like Cody Simon coming in from strong safety rover position. There are absolute machines in the run game. So there's just all around, this run defense is just one of one, man. They're really, really good. The talent goes to Ohio State here, but the scheme, I think I think this is one time where I've differed from coaching and scheme. They're usually hand in hand for me. But I think Notre Dame's scheme is excellent, and I think that it's really their identity, their defensive scheme, and I really like their what they've done with what they have, because Ohio State does have the superior talent by a good margin. It's not that it's not there so wide as say Ohio State and Northwestern, but it's still 5 stars versus 4 stars. So I mean, Ohio State has all the talent in the world. Notre Dame has most of the talent in the world. If you guys know what I'm saying, there. Excuse me. So let's move into the positional battles here. I think the defensive line, you have to go with Ohio State here. Again, they have dogs all over the place, and I think that they're just excellent when it comes to everything here. What a defensive lineman can do. They got Ty Hamilton, Jack Sawyer, like we already said, Tyleek Williams, JT Tuimoloau. At linebacker, you got Sonny Styles. Well, we're not going to talk about linebacker just yet. I was reading a little bit too far into my notes there. Sorry about that. But this defensive line is amazing. If Notre Dame had Riley Mills, it would be a little bit closer. But I think Ohio State's are bigger, faster, and stronger, and they get to the passer a lot more efficiently, and they are better against the run. So now we go to linebackers. Linebackers here. You see, I was getting a little bit ahead of myself, but now we are finally getting to linebackers here. Sonny Styles and Cody Simon are really, really good linebackers. Jack Sawyer kind of plays that edge hybrid linebacker position. But anyway, these 2 or 3 guys, they're really, really good. Cody Simon, Sonny Styles, they're just really, really good. I mean, I can't say that much else about him. Stats are honestly at this point thrown out the window because it is the national championship game, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. We already know all the stats at this point. I've said them all back to you guys so many times throughout these previews and instant reactions. By the way, we will have an instant reaction for this national championship game immediately following it. So another reason why you should subscribe, as you won't want to miss that as well. So the linebackers, I think, decided edge to Ohio State. The corners, however, I think have been I think it's been a very much a liability for Ohio State throughout the whole season. You look at Davis Igbinosun, a guy that, a guy that has really struggled all season. I think he's the most overrated corner in the whole country. I mean, the way he's talked about sometimes, it's like he's a first round pick, and it's no, he's not. He gets beat most times, and what he does to compensate for that is he holds and he draws pass interference, and it's not a good way to go about it. And Denzel Burke has gotten beat recently. I think that there is some instability at the corner position. I think that's where a position where the wide receivers like Jordan Faison and Jaden Greathouse. We saw Jaden Greathouse go off. Jordan Faison has been very steadily rising. His stock has been rising as a wide receiver for Notre Dame. I think that's where they can attack them if they get one-on-one with a guy down the field. I think that's a position where they can attack them on offense. With that aside, we go to Notre Dame's corners, guys like Jordan Clark, Leonard Moore, and Christian Gray. These guys are really good in man coverage. They're really good in zone coverage. Whatever they do, well, Notre Dame doesn't play hardly any zone coverage, so I should omit that part. But in man coverage, they're excellent. They run man coverage, I think, almost 80% of the time, which is a lot. And I don't know how they're going to attack this Ohio State team. It seems like when you play zone against them, that's the best course of action because you do not want to play man against Jeremiah Smith. But maybe maybe they will. I have no clue what they will do. We're gonna see coming up here in a couple days. So I think that these corners are a slight advantage toward Notre Dame. When it comes to safeties, Notre Dame has some excellent safeties. Xavier Watts, in my opinion, is a top 5 player in this game. But you can't you cannot get better than Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom. That's the best safety duo out there in the country, hands down. There's no one better than those two. There's no one better than Caleb Downs at the position. So, decided advantage for the safeties for Ohio State. Okay, so the last positional power rating here, as we are done with the defense, we will shift over to the special teams. I think that Notre Dame has the advantage in coaching when it comes to special teams, as they've forced all sorts of trickery, all sorts of everything, and I think they're one of the best special teams units in the country. At kicker, though, you do have to go with Ohio State. Jaden Fielding has been really good. I think he's over 75% on the year in terms of field goal percentage. The Notre Dame kicker has been off and on throughout the year. Yes, he's gotten better over the postseason, and frankly, he's done his job. I think he's perfect in the postseason when kicking field goals. But Ohio State's kicker is also really good, and I think he can hit from 50 plus, and that's something that we haven't seen Notre Dame's kicker hit yet. Notre Dame's punter is excellent. I think we talked about him in the opening of the video. He's a really good punter and gives them the decided advantage overall for special teams. And then with kick and punt returner, both punt returners, both kick returners are solid. They're great, but it's a lot of fair catching. So I don't really see a decided advantage, so that's why it's white. But I see, in my opinion, a decided advantage in special teams to Notre Dame, which may help them win this game. Okay, so now we have come to the prediction part of this. Remember to subscribe. I think Ohio State will clean up all the mental mistakes, and I think they will win 27-21. I think Notre Dame will hang around, like I said, but I think Ohio State will be able to win this game. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you can't already tell, I have been coming off of a pretty bad sickness. That's why I haven't posted content in a little bit. A little bit for me is about 4 or 5 days. I wanted to put this out a day or two ago, but I had to hold it off till today. So there's a little bit of an update for you there. I will be having my next video on this game come out in a couple days. That would be my top 10 players in this game. So another reason to subscribe and click the bell icon so that you are alerted when that video comes out. Also, my instant reaction for this game will be out as well, and I'm working on a whole big series of videos, about 20 plus videos that will be put out throughout the next month or so. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like the video, comment your thoughts down below, even just to say hi. I love to interact with y'all down in the comments section as we move toward the off season and whatnot. It's been a really fun football season. It's been really fun playoffs. It was a really fun bowl season, and I just hope that 2025 brings us another great year of college football. I have a feeling that it will. If you also have that feeling, give the video a like, and I will see you guys in the next one.